Hello, your friendly neighborhood Mr. Stone here to speak with you a little bit about frequency tables and histograms. So, for starters, let's look at some frequency tables here. We have a frequency table. Note we've got some class intervals. That's this fun stuff here on the left. And then we've got the frequencies for which these occur. And if I've got a frequency of 6, that means in the data that we collected, that we had a result that fit between our class interval here, this first one, between 31 and 35. We had 6 results that fit in this interval. We had 13 that fit in this 36 to 40 interval. We had 14 that fit between 41 to 45, and so on. And that is really how this format helps us. It helps us see patterns so that we can interpret the data and look for some sort of meaning in what we see, what we've gathered. Let's look at some questions that we might have when we're thinking about this type of data. For starters, what is the lower class limit of the fourth interval? That's this guy right here. Well, to get that, we would look at our fourth interval. This would be the first, second, third, fourth. Aha, here we go. Fourth, 46. 46 would be our lower class limit, because that is the very bottom there of that class interval. What is the class width of each class interval? All right, so this one is a little tricky. When I think of the class width, probably our first inclination would be to say, oh, I look at my first one here, 31 to 35. Well, 31 to 35, that's 4, so it would be 4. However, that is not the case, okay? Do not get all confused with this. Do not be all freaked out. To get your class width, all you have to do is this. Take a lower class limit and then subtract the previous lower class limit. And that will give you your class width. So in this case, what I could do is, if I'm using lower class limits, all right, I'll look at 36 right there. So 36 is the lower class limit of the second class. I subtract 31, which is the lower class limit of the first class, the previous one, and that gives me 5. And that's it. My class width would be 5. Which class interval has the lowest frequency? I look at my data. If I'm looking for lowest frequency, I'm looking for which class has a frequency of the least value. I look at my 5 classes here, and I can see that 3 has the least value, so it would simply be 3. Conversely, if we were to ask for the highest, which of these classes would have the highest frequency? Oh, excuse me, sorry. Not which class. That's my goof right there, and that's a common mistake too. This is the 5th class. I was just saying the frequency. Whoops. Our 5th class. Don't make that mistake. I've seen it before, and that's why I think I just made it right then. This is our 5th class, or you can name this class as 51 to 55. Either of those are an acceptable way of naming that class. Going back to the question, if we were to say our highest frequency class, we could look this over and we would say what? We could say, because of this 14, our 3rd class, or we could say 41 to 45. All right? What is the class boundary between the 3rd and 4th class interval? Okay, class boundary between the third and fourth. That's between these two. So really the question is asking, where do I stop including data in the third class interval, and when do I start adding it to the fourth? Because you might not always have something that is a nice clean integer that we can cleanly put into one of these spots. Especially if you've got weights. You can have fractions of weights, right? So where is that point that it changes? And in order to determine that, take the lower class limit of the higher class and then add in the previous upper class limit. Take all that and divide by 2. So our upper class, or excuse me, our lower class limit for our fourth class is 46. So take 46 plus the previous upper class limit was 45. 46 plus 45 over 2. That gives us 91 over 2. That gives us 40.5, which is our answer. All right? And these same principles really apply when we are looking at histograms. So, hey, I've got a histogram here. How about that? Let's take a look using this data. Which is the lower class limit of the fourth class interval? What do you think? The lower class limit would be, we look at the fourth class interval. Here's the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. 40 would be our lower class limit. What is the class width of each class interval? Take a moment, look at that, think about it. Pause this for a second if you like. I think that'd be a great idea. Pausing is cool. You can take a look at lower class limit for the second class. Subtract the lower class limit for the first class. Gives you 5. Class width would be 5. Which class interval has the lowest frequency? In this case, we've got 2. We don't have just one. We see both the fourth and fifth classes. Actually have 1 in their frequency count. And then what is the class boundary between the third and fourth class interval? We look at the third and the fourth. So my lower class limit for the fourth is 40. My upper class limit for the third is 39. 40 plus 39 divided by 2. That gives me 79 over 2, which is simply 39.5, my final answer. All right, please feel free to review this as much as you like. I think with a little bit of practice, you will find that this is pretty interesting stuff and not terribly intimidating after you have a chance to just play around with it a little bit. All right, review this, learn it, master it, be awesome, and have an excellent day.